Every year, I write a battle rhyme for the entire top 10 of Billboard. No disrespect, it's just the way I practice. If you're in the top 10 of Billboard, I have a rhyme to battle you, straight up, that will destroy your career.
My response to his response was, kill that noise, because you can't mess around.
I don't really mind being criticized, but those who try to make fame on my name, dies.
He was going, Manhattan keeps on making it, Brooklyn keeps on taking it, Bronx keeps creating it, Queens keeps on faking it. Yeah. It was so hot, we still had to.
And then the bridges overcame. It just silenced everything. It was like, oh, they're not playing.
In the mid-'80s, one of the first major and longest-running rap beefs kicked off, the legendary battle between KRS-One and MC Shan, famously known as the Bridge Wars.
He heard it and said it was garbage. I said, garbage? MC Shan is garbage?
This Bronx versus Queen's clash gave birth to some of the most iconic diss tracks in hip-hop history and played a key role in shaping battle rap culture.
And then the first major hip-hop beef, KRS-One versus MC Shan.
It's one of the most important hip-hop beefs in hip-hop. It shaped and molded a lot, a lot that was, to come in the future.
In fact, many believe this feud helped revive hip-hop at a time when the genre was watered down and losing its edge. And it seems like the tension between KRS-One and MC Shan is still simmering even to this day.
Wouldn't let that get a fucking dime off of me. Like he's saying, I want to get a dime off you, this is how much I want that money. And I ain't worried. I made more money than your whole career span. All the 20 albums, all that, and you were talking about, oh, Shan need money. I don't need nothing.
So how did it all unfold? Let's find out. So, back in 1985 to 86, MC Shan, repping the Queensbridge projects in Queens, New York, dropped a track that would end up sparking one of the most iconic beefs in hip-hop history. The song The Bridge was produced by Marley Marl and was basically an ode to Queensbridge and the rising hip-hop scene there.
Me and my man MC Shan made a intermission record for Queensbridge parties that we used to have in the park out there at Queens.
At the time, Sean, Marley Marl, and Roxanne Shanti were all coming up out of that neighborhood under the Juice Crew umbrella. The song was nostalgic, painting pictures of park jams, local block parties, and the early days of their music grind. It was more of a let me tell you where I'm from kind of track than anything else.
Gentlemen, we got MC Shan and Marley Marl in the house tonight.
Now, Sean has always stood by the fact that he never meant to say that hip-hop actually started in Queensbridge. His goal wasn't to rewrite history, but to celebrate how the culture started for them in their own backyard. As he once explained, the song literally starts with the line, MC Shan and Marley Marl in the house tonight. They want to tell you a story about where they come from.
In the beginning of the song, you hear Marley say, oh, they want to tell you a story about where they come from. That's the key word, where they come from. The bridge.
That was the whole point, just to rep Queensbridge and give it its flowers. In his words, I only said how it started in Queensbridge, not all over the world. Hip-hop was set out in the dark in Queensbridge. But here's where things got tricky. While Shan might not have been trying to claim that Queensbridge birthed hip-hop, a lot of people, especially those from the Bronx, took it that way. See, the Bronx had long been crowned as the true birthplace of hip-hop, and that's something they took a lot of pride in. So when The Bridge started making rounds, many in the Bronx felt like Queens was trying to snatch that title away, and they weren't about to let that slide. But there was more going on behind the scenes that added fuel to the fire. There was already a brewing radio war at the time. Marley Marl, who was Shan's producer and mentor, was closely tied to Mr. Magic, a big-time radio DJ on WBLS. Now, years earlier in 1985, a young KRS-One and his partner Scott LaRock, two hungry MCs from the South Bronx, had approached Mr. Magic with their demo, hoping to get some shine.
What up? KRS-One and Scott LaRock. Yeah. This is how we barge in. Yo, this is Boogie Down Productions. KRS, Scott. So obviously Mr. Magic is like, who are you? Get out of here!
Instead of encouragement, they got dissed. Mr. Magic straight up told them their music was whack. That stung. To make things more tense, Mr. Magic and Marley Marl were also locked in a kind of turf war with DJ Red Alert, who was spinning on rival station 98.7 KISS FM and just so happened to be tight with KRS-One.
Now, somewhere along the line, we get the impression that Mr. Magic said our tape was whack, whack, whack. He heard it and said it was garbage. I said garbage.
So when the bridge dropped, KRS-One and Scott LaRock saw the perfect chance to clap back, not just at Shan, but at the whole Juice Crew, Mr. Magic, Marley Marl squad. KRS later recalled hearing the bridge and thinking, oh, we're going after them. With Borough Pride and Bruised Egos in the mix, Boogie Down Productions, BDP, went straight to the lab to cook up their response. Their answer was South Bronx. KRS-One flipped the whole vibe of Shan's track. While Shan celebrated his neighborhood, KRS gave a history lesson. Backed by a gritty, drum-heavy beat, South Bronx mirrored Shan's structure but recentered the conversation. KRS made it crystal clear. Hip-hop started in the Bronx. The chant, South Bronx, the South Bronx, became a rallying cry directly challenging the bridge and defending his borough's legacy.
South Bronx, the South Bronx, South Bronx, the South Bronx.
But where Shan kept things light and mostly respectful, KRS came with venom. The opening lines of South Bronx were a straight-up diss. Party people in the place to be, KRS-One attacks. You got dropped off MCA cause the rhymes you wrote was whack. That was a cold shot at Shan's failed record deal with MCA, which had gone south after a poorly received single.
You got dropped off MCA cause the rhymes you wrote was what?
And then came the real gut punch. So you think that hip-hop had its start out in Queensbridge? If you pop that junk up in the Bronx, you might not live.
Bridge. If you pop that junk up in the Bronx, you might not live.
But he didn't stop there. He also clowned Shan for beefing with LL Cool J. Instead of trying to take out LL, you need to get your homeboys off the crack. This was a brutal line that touched on Shan's song Beat Biter, where he accused LL Cool J of stealing a Marley Marl beat. KRS flipped that into a diss that not only questioned Shan's priorities, but also threw in a jab about his crew's supposed drug issues. So, after Boogie Down Productions dropped the hammer with South Bronx, the battle was far from over. In fact, things were just heating up. The song ended up becoming the lead single off BDP's debut album Criminal Minded, which dropped in March 1987.
He couldn't play nothing else.
On the flip side, MC Shan wasn't backing down either. A few months before Criminal Minded came out in August 1986, Shan had already dropped his own debut album Down by Law. Of course, it featured the bridge, but it also had something new, a follow-up diss track called Kill That Noise, his official clapback to South Bronx.
His response was, kill that noise.
Shan didn't come soft either. He stood his ground, doubled down on repping Queensbridge, and made it clear he wasn't trying to rewrite hip-hop history, just putting his hood on the map. But instead of apologizing or trying to squash the beef, Shan flipped the script. He used Kill That Noise to straight up deny ever saying that hip-hop started in Queens, and accused BDP of blowing things out of proportion.
Kill that noise! Kill that noise!
In his view, KRS-One and Scott LaRock weren't really offended. They were just using the Juice Crew's name to ride a wave and get some shine. One line from the track that sums it all up goes, "You're just mad, 'cause we're getting ours, fame. So you tried to ride our bandwagon." He even took it further with a few direct shots of his own. Shan dismissed KRS-One's anger as dramatic and unnecessary, but he still let it be known that he wasn't one to be played with. In one especially aggressive line he spits, "Those who try to make fame off my name die."
I don't really mind being criticized, but those who try to make fame on my name die.
According to a Spin magazine write-up from that time, Shan even described pulling out a gun in the track, letting KRS know that this wasn't just music anymore. But then KRS-One came back again, and this time he went nuclear. Early 1987, BDP released The Bridge Is Over, and honestly, it was like the final nail in the coffin for the Juice Crew's side of the beef. If South Bronx was a hard-hitting history lesson, The Bridge Is Over was a straight-up takedown.
South Bronx came out, then Kill That Noise came out, then I put out The Bridge Is Over, because it's all I had. These are rhymes that I was saying. So I ran back in the studio the next week.
KRS wasn't playing around, but he also made it sound like he was. That's what made it even colder. The track had this bouncy, almost dance hall vibe, with a reggae-inspired delivery and a catchy piano loop. The intro alone came in hot. Right out the gate, KRS reaffirms why the beef even started in the first place. He calls Shan out again for implying that hip-hop came from Queens, and then drops what would become one of the most iconic lines in battle rap history. Manhattan keeps on making it, Brooklyn keeps on taking it, Bronx keeps creating it, and Queens keeps on faking it.
Manhattan keeps on making it, Brooklyn keeps on taking it, Bronx keeps creating it, and Queens keeps on faking it.
KRS was making it clear that, in his eyes, Queens was all smoke and mirrors, while the Bronx was the real birthplace, the real deal. But it didn't stop at just borough-wide shots. In the second verse, KRS got personal. He went after individual Juice Crew members one by one with razor-sharp precision. He name-dropped Mr. Magic and hit him with one of the most vulgar and disrespectful bars in battle rap history. Then he turned to Roxanne Shanti and made an extremely crude comment that crossed the line from battle rap into flat-out nastiness. And of course he circled back to Shan and Marley Marl, calling them frauds, basically saying they had no real weight in the game. One of the coldest couplets from that verse goes, "I finally figured it out, Magic's mouth is used for sucking, Roxanne Shanti is only good for steady effing. MC Shan and Marley Marl is really only bluffing like Dougie Fresh said, I tell you now, you ain't nothing."
Shan and Marley Marl is really only bluffing. Like Dougie Fresh said, I tell you now.
And to make things even more interesting, he threw in some creative flair. The beat interpolated a reggae bass line from Supercat's Boops, and even played around with a Billy Joel melody just to show how playful and unpredictable KRS could be. It gave the whole track this cheeky, theatrical feel, which somehow made the insults land even harder. He was enjoying the destruction. And then there was the hook. The bridge is over, biddy bye bye. That chorus wasn't just saying Shan lost, it was saying Queensbridge's whole claim to the hip-hop throne was done.
That's it. The bridge is over, the bridge is over, biddy bye bye. The bridge is over, the bridge is over.
The bridge is over is often seen as the final blow in what became one of hip-hop's most legendary beefs, the Bridge Wars. The track was so scathing, so effective, that it left MC Shan with little choice but to fall back. To this day, it's still considered one of the greatest diss tracks of all time, and the aftermath spoke for itself. Shan never dropped a direct response. He's since admitted that he wanted to fire back, but his producer Marley Marl supposedly told him to stand down, to not give the feud any more life. So, with Shan effectively silenced, it was pretty much settled. KRS-One and Boogie Down Productions were declared the winners in the eyes of most of the hip-hop community. As one writer put it bluntly, the bridge is over pretty much put an end to the KRS-Shan conflict, as Shan never bothered to respond. By 1987, the back-and-forth diss tracks between BDP and the Juice Crew had fizzled out. KRS-One was walking away with the crown. Unfortunately, though, things weren't all victories for BDP. Just weeks after Criminal Minded was released, tragedy struck. KRS's right-hand man, DJ Scott LaRock, was shot and killed while trying to help BDP member D-Nice out of a personal conflict. The issue had nothing to do with the Juice Crew. Apparently, D-Nice was having problems with some dudes over a woman he was talking to. Scott stepped in to mediate and got caught in the crossfire. The incident rocked KRS-One deeply and forced a major shift in his perspective. While Criminal Minded had been filled with tough, militant rhymes and battle-ready energy, this loss led KRS to adopt a more socially conscious direction in his future work. But not everyone felt like letting the beef die. In fact, while BDP and the Juice Crew's core feud was cooling off, other artists started inserting themselves into the mix. One of the most notable entries came from Roxanne Shanti, who jumped back in too. She dropped Have a Nice Day, a track produced by Marley Marl and ghost-written by none other than Big Daddy Kane. Now, Kane and Biz Markie were actually cool with KRS-One, so neither of them had ever really gotten involved in the beef. But this time, Kane made an exception, at Shantae's request. On the song, especially in the fourth verse, there's a clear swipe at BDP. Shantae takes aim at KRS-One's name, mocking it, and throws shade at the legacy of Scott LaRock by claiming he stole his name from T. LaRock, another early Bronx rapper.
KRS-One, you should go on vacation with a name sounding like a whack radio station. And as Scott.
Then in October 1988, MC Shan finally decided to poke the bear again. He released his sophomore album Born to Be Wild, and buried in it was a track called Juice Crew Law. This song was a delayed comeback. a long-awaited attempt to clap back at KRS-One for The Bridge Is Over. It wasn't a terrible song. Shan still had his lyrical chops, but it didn't land with nearly the same force as the track it was responding to. And after this, Shan would pretty much step away from the beef altogether. Still, the echoes of the Bridge Wars kept bouncing around the culture. Another rapper, Cool C out of Philadelphia, got involved too. He released a track called Juice Crew Diss on his debut album I Got a Habit. The title might make you think he was going at the whole crew, but really his sights were mostly set on MC Shan. Apparently, Shan and a few other Juice Crew members had once been affiliated with Philly-based Pop Art Records, but things didn't work out, and they left. Cool C, maybe feeling salty about that, decided to go in on Shan. He flipped a bunch of Shan's own lyrics, from The Bridge, Juice Crew Law, and other tracks, and roasted him for bouncing between record labels, hinting that he kept getting dropped.
You and Shantae know where you got to start, right here in Philly, on Pop Art.
Unfortunately, Cool C's story would take a dark turn later in life. Years after the diss track, he was arrested and convicted for his role in a failed bank robbery that ended in the murder of a police officer. He's now serving a life sentence. Another name that jumped into the mix was MC Mitchski, better known as the rapping comedian. He took a few lighthearted shots at the Juice Crew on a track called Brooklyn Blew Up the Bridge. It wasn't a super aggressive diss. Instead, it leaned more on comedy. Most of the jabs were aimed at MC Shan, mainly clowning him for how he dressed on stage. As you can guess from Mitchki's name, the whole thing had a playful tone. It wasn't one of the standout diss tracks in the beef by any means, but it added another layer to what made this whole saga known as the Bridge Wars. Random disses were coming in from all directions, almost like everyone wanted a piece of the action. Another artist who didn't hold back was Butchie B, who went straight at KRS-One on his track Beatin' Down KRS-One. Now Butchie B was cool with Mr. Magic, who KRS-One had dissed in The Bridge Is Over, so this was payback. And Butchie didn't pull punches. He mocked KRS for using a fake Jamaican accent in his track, clowned him over his hairstyle, and even took shots at D-Nice and Cool DJ Red Alert, two people firmly on BDP's side. But the line that had everyone talking was when Butchie B said, "Just try to get with me, and you'll be hanging out with Scott." That was a clear shot referencing Scott LaRock's recent death.
And if you think I'm bugging or you think that I will not, just try to get with me and you be hanging out with Scott.
At the time, dissing someone by referencing their dead friend or crew member was rare, practically unheard of. It's more common in today's rap beefs, but back then it shocked people. It marked one of the earliest times a rapper used a death in a diss, which many saw as crossing the line. Even though the main war between BDP and the Juice Crew started to fizzle out after a while, especially as more artists made peace, the tension between KRS-One and MC Shan never fully went away. While most others had squashed the drama, those two kept things simmering under the surface. Fast forward all the way to 2016, and out of nowhere, MC Shan pops up with a freestyle on the radio, taking fresh shots at KRS-One. Not long after, KRS clapped back with a track called Still Hugging a Nut, Shan, and he went in. The track is just under 2 minutes, but it's dense with hard-hitting bars. One standout line had fans shaking their heads. "You done. The only way you gonna win this battle is if you bite my name and call yourself Shan One."
You done. The only way you gonna win this battle is if you bite my name and call yourself Shan One.
Shan didn't take that lying down. He fired back with a track titled Revenge of the Walking Dead, and not long after, KRS came again with Take 'Em Out, another savage diss that made it clear he wasn't backing down. That track is believed to be the last official diss between the two, nearly 30 years after their feud started with The Bridge Is Over. It's wild to think they kept the energy alive after all that time, especially since KRS had made peace with just about everyone else from the original beef. Aside from these major tracks, there have been other songs with little jabs and plenty of mentions in interviews over the years. All of it helped stretch the Bridge Wars into one of the longest-running beefs in hip-hop history. And thankfully, it stayed on wax. No shootings, no fights, no street violence, just bars. Both KRS-One and MC Shan have reflected on the beef in later years and pretty much admitted that if it never happened, KRS-One might not have become the legend he is today.
MC Shan could have won the battle simply by ignoring me. I'd be nowhere. There'd be no KRS-One, there'd be no 12 albums, no Stop the Violence movement, no Human Education Against Lies, no Temple.
They've both acknowledged that the feud, while intense, never reached a point of true hatred. And that's probably why it lasted so long without ever turning dangerous. At this point, most people agree KRS-One won. He's had the longer, more consistent career, dropped countless classic albums, been featured in documentaries, taught hip-hop history, and built a name as one of the most respected voices in the culture. MC Shan also had a few albums under his belt, but he was way less active musically in the years that followed. A lot of people blame the fall-off on how the beef with KRS affected his reputation, but only Shan himself really knows the full truth. Either way, hip-hop definitely came out on top. The beef sparked creativity, gave us some of the hardest diss tracks of all time, and helped push battle rap to new heights. It gave KRS-One a massive platform, and to this day, it remains one of the most memorable chapters in rap history.